Hello and welcome back to the radio room. Taking a look at the FT101, the older one that showed up about a week ago in the radio room. This is the last video I did. Just kind of going over it. I kind of wanted to. I was really curious. In the previous video, I had mentioned that as I was touching parts of the case and in something grounded, that I was getting a tingle, and I was saying it had a hot chassis on it, and I really wanted to know, well, how much voltage is that? And I was guessing by the tingle on the back of my finger. I think I was guessing somewhere between 50 and 60 volts AC. It definitely felt like AC, which, as my wife would say, probably the fact that I know that means that I've probably absorbed way too much voltage in my life. But I wanted to go ahead and show y'all exactly how much voltage is on this radio, the chassis of it. I did check one thing. This plug here, which this is the plug to the 101. This is the new one I made, which I've checked out. It's wired correctly. There's no problems there. It's a two-prong, but it's not a polarized plug, which meets the original way that the Yaesus were made. And it does make a difference on whether I have voltage depending on which way I plug it in. So I'm just going to show you what it is. And just to give you a point, right there you'll see a dot, just a little black dot. That's the one that, when that's going to the line voltage, not the neutral, that's when actually going to the hot line, it does give more voltage on the chassis, which switching it around is actually kind of an important part, I believe, in figuring out what might be going on here. If it was a shorted transformer or something, I think it wouldn't matter which way I had it put in. Guess that would depend on how far down the transformer it is. However, I do have it plugged into my dim bulb tester box. I do have it on bypass, so as you can notice, I don't have the bulbs in here. And that's just because, if you also remember from the last video, it doesn't matter if the on-off button or the power button on the radio is on or off, it's still on. Still got to work on figuring that out. But in the meantime, I'm using this as a power switch. So that's what we're going to do on that. Like I said, let me see how, just kind of show you how I got things set up here a little bit. I'm using my VTVM multimeter, the Heathkit VTVM. Set up on AC right now, and I do have the negative clip of it is actually connected to the little snap deal. I don't think I can get this on camera because the cord's not long enough. Well, if I knock enough stuff around, it's just the grounded wire that goes to my ESD pad when I'm using my ESD pad. So I have the negative alligator clip for the VTVM connected to that. And then I'm going to touch the chassis with the positive probe, or the other probe. It's AC, it's not necessarily positive or negative. And I'm going to try and do this. I have my mobile camera kind of set up a little bit weird, precariously. If I don't knock things around, it'll be okay. But as you can see right here, I do have that pointed to the dial on the VTVM. And let me kind of go split screen here so you can kind of see things. So with the power off, the power's off right now, I don't have any voltage on the chassis. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the radio on. Right now I'm set in the 150 volt range on the VTVM. And let's see how much voltage there is to ground. that's a pretty good swing. Let me get a little closer on that so y'all can really see how much it is. So just touching the chassis of the radio. As you can see on the 150 volt scale, which just look where that 15 is, the second row of numbers down, and multiply that by times 10, there's 100 volts on the chassis right now. And that's what was giving me that tingle when I was putting my hand between ground and the chassis. And just show you that it is less the other way, I am going to go ahead and turn the plug around. So now it's plugged in the other way. And the radio doesn't really care so much which way you do this. It's a transformer, so it's just, it'll run either way. So radio is back on. I'm not sure y'all can actually hear it, but now let's go and look at how much voltage there is this direction. Maybe 10, 11 volts. So there's definitely something going on there. We'll go ahead and turn this off. And let's go ahead and look at the schematic. And I think I know where our problem is coming from. So let me go ahead and move to here. And we're looking at a portion of the schematic right here. This is right here is the power transformer. This is the plug we're using. This is on the back of this is the jack on the back of the radio, the power jack, so to speak. And here's the end of the cord. So you got your AC line that comes in here, and one side goes up here and goes over to 2. And the other one, if you follow this up here, goes over to 4. And that's where the AC comes into the radio. So to find out where it's going in the radio, we just take the numbers, what we're doing here, and we see where they connect to the actual back of the radio. So like number 4, which is right here on the power line side, here's 4, comes over and runs down and runs to the fan, and also runs to the 100 volt tap on each on the 2 transformer cores, or 2 tap areas. And then let's see, number 2, and this is where it's going to get fun, because I got to do a little bit of figuring things out here. Here's the power switch that doesn't do anything. Comes down, goes through the power switch, it goes over to 3. There's no contact on 3 here, so that's actually coming over so where it's running, tying some stuff together if you're using the DC power cord. But it also goes over this way, goes through the fuse, and goes to the other side of each primary primary transformer winding. So what I'm thinking is happening is because number 2 is the one that black dot is connected to. So when that one's hooked to line power, or the hot side of the AC power cord, and of course the switch, I haven't figured out what's going on. I don't know if it's jumpered on the back of it, if the switch is broke and it's stuck in the on position. I don't know. Goes through the power switch, comes over, and of course, like I said, runs down to the fan. Of course, both sides actually go to the fan. The fan just runs off 120 volts. And runs over to the other end of the transformer. What I'm suspecting is actually this capacitor right here, C75. If you'll see, it actually goes to chassis ground, the other side of it. That's the ground side of the whole radio. So everything in here, like right here, let's see here, right here, that's all going to chassis ground. These are line bypass filters, capacitors. They're basically to help keep noise, RF noise, whatnot, from coming in through the power line and getting into the radio. It also might help with any transients in line voltage, little spikes. It'll bleed those off without getting into the radio and hopefully damaging the radio. What I'm suspecting is that this capacitor, and possibly this one to a certain degree as well, is getting leaky. And by that I mean it's passing voltage that it's not supposed to. There's going to be some voltage go across that just because it is a capacitor, but due to the capacitance value of it, not very much actually goes to ground. The 60 hertz doesn't pass through that very well. Higher frequencies can pass through it easier. So if you have RF coming in through your power line, it's basically kind of shunted to ground, which keeps it from getting into the radio. So it's kind of, I guess you could say, a high pass filter type capacitor. So what it's basically doing is since there's current bleeding through there, that's getting onto the chassis of the radio. And when I flip it around, 2 isn't connected to the line side. It's connected to the neutral side of the power cord coming in. So 4, when it's got the line power on it, this C74 is the one that's on the line side. So that's when I turn it down, there's not as much voltage present on the chassis due to the fact that maybe this capacitor isn't as leaky. It still had about 10 or 11 volts, and it might have a little bit of voltage on it. Like I said, you can have some go through there just because capacitors don't always block all AC, but it should block most of it and keep current from flowing to the chassis just because of the fact that 60 hertz doesn't pass through it very easily. So I'm suspecting C75 may be leaky, needs replaced. If I do that, I'm going to use more than likely a safety capacitor. And it probably, let's see, this one would be a class Y safety capacitor because it's going between the power line and ground. If it went across them, it would actually be a class X, I believe, which would be between, well, the capacitor would be this way. It'd be between this, let's see, this line and this line. So that's what I'm suspecting is the problem, why it's got voltage on it. And I still got to figure out what's going on with this power switch right here. Or is there something else going in here that somehow this has all been bypassed? Maybe the switch has been bypassed. Like I mentioned in the last video, there's definitely been something done to the power jack on the back of the radio. But it seemed stable and didn't look like there was any problems going on with it. So I was leaving it the way it was. That might not be the case. Maybe I need to get in there and something got changed on it. Somebody changed something out in it, or maybe there's something touching something that's not supposed to be touching. I'm going to have to get in there and find out. Maybe that's one reason why the power switch doesn't work. Maybe they got 2 and 3 tied together back there, and the switch isn't even involved. So they've literally jumpered between 2 and 3. Possibly because maybe the power switch is bad. They wanted to fix it. They wanted the radio to at least turn on when they plugged it in. Maybe there's a jumper between 2 and 3 in the back of the radio. That would do the same thing. That would turn it on and it would be on all the time. So I'm going to have to explore that. But I just wanted to get in here and show y'all what's going on, or what I've found so far and what I think it is, and we'll see if that's the case. But like I said, looking at that kind of voltage is not something that I want to be working on this radio, especially if I have to have it plugged in or turned on while I'm working on it. Most of the places that I work, my workbenches, the radio's not touching ground. If I'm touching the table, I'm not grounded. The only case is the bench that I'm sitting on right now. If I touch the legs of it, they're grounded. But I don't want to. I don't want to brush up against something while I'm touching the radio. So right now, I can touch the radio. Right now. But since I'm not grounded, that's not a problem. If I happen to touch this and something that is grounded, I'm going to get a bit of tingle. And depending on how well I'm making contact with something, it might be a pretty good little zap. So that's where I'm starting. Still don't know exactly what the problem is with the radio. I haven't had a chance to talk to the owner quite yet. I tried to get in contact with him earlier. But we'll see if I can talk to him a little bit, because what I'm really suspecting is possibly if we do have a bypass filter capacitor, line filter capacitor, that's bad, and remember the pilot fuse, or the lamp fuse lamp, whatever you want to call it, for the receive was bad, it's possible maybe this radio was hooked up to an antenna, plugged into the wall, maybe it was even on, I don't know, and it maybe didn't take a direct lightning strike, but maybe there was a close by lightning strike. This is all hypothesis. And there was a high transient that went through the power and came in through the antenna, which blew the fuse lamp for the receive on the back of the radio and wiped out one of those line filter capacitors. So I'm just going to have to get in here. I'm going to have to get the case taken off the radio, get in there. I can get the bottom panel off, but at the same time I want to take a look at the power switch. And it's down in there in a spot with the case on. I can't get to it. I'm going to be working on the radio. I need to get the case off anyhow. I'll probably have to remove some of the boards, especially to get to the power switch, and see what's going on in there. So I just wanted to drop in here, give you a little bit of an update, let y'all know that I did find out how much voltage is on this. My digital multimeter, I can't even read the voltage. I'm going to try this again. Y'all can't see this on screen, but I am going to try and measure this again to see if I can read the 100 volts on the DMM. I kind of have a feeling that maybe the impedance differences between the two, since there isn't very much, I don't think there's much current flowing through that capacitor. I just think there's a lot of voltage with a little bit of current flowing through that capacitor. There might not be enough for the DMM to even pick it up. But let me just try this real quick. So I got my I got one probe going over the same ground, and then I'm just going to touch this, and yeah, see, it doesn't even register as voltage on my DMM, but it does on the VTVM, which has a lot higher impedance. So I think that's what's going on right here. We got 100 volts of voltage. I just don't think there's enough current flowing through the that capacitor to register on the DMM, and that's why on that last video I could never detect the amount of voltage on it. So that's where we're at, and I'll probably be following up, hopefully, with another video, probably within the next day or two, to find out what I find out. I'm really curious about that power switch. And like I said, it might be they just jumpered in the back. Maybe the switch is bad. We'll see what's going on. Something's definitely different about that power connector on the back of the radio. I did have the cover pulled off the same day I got it, because I was just looking at some stuff because I was curious with the way the cord looked, which was old. The insulation had cracked. They get old. They dry out. But when I looked in there, I could definitely tell that the jack connector connector, or the connector on the back of the radio, it's not in the chassis. It's actually mounted kind of on the outside of the chassis. And there's some black tape in there and stuff like that. I figured let's give it a try and see what happens. Maybe they just mounted it that way because they were having trouble getting it mounted back in there after doing some work or something. But I suspect there might be some other things going on there now. So I'm going to get that, and then I'll do a follow-up video on this and let you all know what I find out, and the plan is to fix it. If I gotta get some of those capacitors, I'll have to order those. So it'll take a day or two to fix that. Depends on how long it takes for DigiKey or Mouser to get them shipped to me, or wherever I end up getting them. But thanks for stopping by. Just a quick update on the second 101, the older version. Still working on getting some parts for the 101E and finding some of those, some capacitors. I did order some acrylic rod, dowel, whatever you want to call it, to replace the one shaft in it, and see what we can go with in here. I also ordered some lamps to replace that one fuse lamp with. The spec calls for a 15 volt 150 milliamp bulb. What was in here was a 16 volt 150 milliamp. I can't find any 16 volt 150 milliamps, so I found a 14.4, and I think it's at 182 milliamps or something like that. So I'm hoping that's going to work for the receive. I just can't find 16 volt mini bayonets. I don't know. I'm sure there's some out there somewhere, but I can't find them. But I ordered some 14.4 volt ones, and we'll see if those will work. And it might pick the receive up on this thing as well. And maybe that's what the problem was. Maybe the guy the owner was just operating on 80 meters. He said there's an 80 meter problem. Maybe it's just that blew out, and he just didn't check any other bands. Maybe he just did 80 meters mostly with this radio. I'm not sure. Or maybe it was the wrong time of day to check any other band. So we'll get back to that as well. And slowly but surely we're going to get this puppy back to running again as well. So thanks for stopping by the radio room. Hope you all get a little enjoyment out of watching me kind of go through and figure out the mysteries on some of these radios. And they got a lot of history to them. This radio's been around a day or two. So it's almost like an archaeological dig to find out what happened to it. A lot of history here that goes back a lot longer than I do. So thanks for stopping by, and bye for now.